Remembering Mother. You can remember anything you want to remember. Mother's piercing brown eyes were fixed on me, a gangly high school sophomore. The reason Mother was taking me to task was that I had developed a habit of forgetting to do errands for neighbor women when I went to school in Morgantown. In my half-mile trek to the school bus each day by a path over the hill through a field and a small stretch of woods, I passed by 3 houses inhabited by people who had no transportation to town, except walking to the road and catching the mail truck there and back. The housewives got into the habit of asking me to purchase small items for them, spools of thread to finish a quilt, embroidery or crochet thread, or phonograph needles for the wind-up phonograph in a radioless house. I had a 45-minute lunch period in the high school in town, 8 miles away, in which I had plenty of time to eat lunch and the freedom to leave school and purchase the items. However, I was co-editor of my high school paper, which my friend Neil Tanner and I put out without any help from the sponsor, who was an overworked teacher who made it clear to us if we wanted a paper, we could put it out, but she was sponsor in name only. We had no period except lunch to type and edit and duplicate the paper on a mimeograph machine and later a newly invented spirit duplicator. I would get caught up in my own affairs at lunch and really forget about the errands until I'd come in sight of the 2-room board and batten house where Nova Odell would meet me, having waited anxiously for the phonograph needles. I must have told Mother about forgetting Zora's thread and Nova's phonograph needles. I thought she would feel sorry for me, having been expected to interrupt my day to help the neighbors. However, she sat me down and explained how isolated those women were, having no way to get to town to buy the small items that would help them pass the time to keep them from perishing in a sea of boredom while the weather was too bad to get outside. Mother said, "Nobody can make the grades you make without being able to remember." Of course, Mother was right. In Psychology 101, as a college freshman, I learned again what my mother, who had never seen the inside of a psychology book, knew instinctively. You can remember anything you want to remember. I think they taught it backwards. You can forget anything you want to forget. I was forgetting because subconsciously I resented having to do the errands. Mother's lecture helped. I improved on doing the errands for the short term, and over the long haul, I've used Mother's lecture many times in rearing my own 3 children and a 35-year stint of teaching other people's children. I don't claim to have a perfect track record in remembering, but by and large, I've come pretty close to at least attempting to do anything I promised to do. This is a legacy from my mother, who burned it on my brain that day in 1940. You can remember anything you want to remember.